Massive update for crypto investors all around the world as the White House has just released the first ever crypto report. And one thing is clear, the war on crypto is over and crypto is here to stay in the USA. Now, we're going to take you through the details all throughout today's episode, showing our listeners why this is impactful, not only for the American economy, but for the value of their favorite crypto projects. Projects like Stellar, HBAR, and XRP are going to dominate the American economy. And a report like this highlights why it's so important for everyday Americans to take advantage of this opportunity while it's here. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto. If you guys enjoy this content, show us some love, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, just 1 hour ago, the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets released the recommendations to strengthen American leadership in the digital financial technology. Why is this important? They are giving clear rules and guidelines for how to regulate this market here in 2025. And we saw it with the passing of the Genius Act, which kicked off regulation for stablecoins. That will be followed up by the Clarity Act. And according to Charles Hodgkinson, when the Clarity Act is signed and this market has clear rules and guidelines for what is a security, what is a commodity, and what regulatory body needs to be in control of each individual asset, we are going to see this market grow and expand in a way that we have never seen before. And what Charles was predicting is that this bull market isn't just going to end in 2025. This bull market is headed all the way until the end of 2026, taking this from a $3.5 trillion asset class to north of $10 trillion by the end of next year. If you agree with that, smash that like button. Now let's dive into the details of what the working group released today. Now, the objective in releasing this first ever crypto market report is to develop regulatory and legislative proposals that advance the Trump administration's pro-crypto agenda, removing a lot of the anti-crypto policy and allowing these companies to flourish here inside the United States. And according to the latest reports of what is going to be addressed here, we are already seeing major changes inside the United States. Now, what is the Trump administration trying to accomplish? This White House crypto report calls for the SEC and CFTC to cooperate to allow federal level trading of crypto. That's going to put this at the same status as stocks, bonds for the first time in the history of the American economy. It's also going to advance the safe harbor law and allow for sandboxes to speed up DeFi innovation here inside the United States. With Ripple's acquisition of Hidden Road, DeFi applications are already in full effect. Any prime brokerage that isn't beginning to leverage blockchain technology is not going to have the ability to keep up with some of these modern day settlement systems. And that's going to be more important than ever after the ISO integration in 2026. This also supports a fast rollout of the Genius Act, which is stablecoin legislation. And we know this is great for the RLUSD stablecoin. This is great for USDC, Circle stablecoin product. But the writing is on the wall for the largest stablecoin on the planet in Tether. And this could be the catalyst that begins that push to get Tether out of the United States markets. It also wants the IRS to clarify tax rules for mining, staking, and small crypto transactions. Do with that information what you will. But as this market becomes regulated, we are going to need clear rules for how people should file their taxes and what are the legal obligations here when it comes to digital assets. It also suggests that crypto access for 401ks and mortgage assets should be addressed. You are now going to be able to provide your XRP, your HBAR, and your Bitcoin to the United States banks and get a loan to buy a home. You're also going to be able to add some of these altcoins as well as Bitcoin into your retirement portfolio. And that really gets kicked off after the approval of ETFs happen towards the back end of 2025. It also pushes for a banking charter access, clearing the marginal rules for crypto firms. Having SEC lawsuits dropped, including Coinbase, Binance, and Ripple under new leadership. We know that Coinbase was dropped. We know that Binance was dropped. We are still waiting from an official announcement out of the SEC confirming that they are dropping the appeal. We do know that Ripple and the SEC have come to a settlement behind the scenes, but the SEC has yet to make that official announcement. That could be another bullish catalyst for the industry. And finally, the Department of Justice Crypto Enforcement Unit was dismantled. And this was a enforcement group that attacked several crypto companies during the Biden administration and made it extremely difficult to operate here inside the United States. With all these amendments coming into effect here in 2025, this clears the way for digital assets to be treated as any other asset class would be inside the US. Your prime brokerages, your stock portfolios, your retirement portfolios. We are going to see crypto investors have access to their wealth in a way that we have never seen before. And a great example of this is earlier today, Coinbase partnered with JP Morgan Chase, launching a Coinbase credit card giving users direct access to their Chase portfolio, as well as instant access to direct deposits when using the Coinbase Chase card. So JP Morgan, one of the biggest adversaries of the crypto space over the past decade or so, is now working with the largest player and the largest exchange in America in Coinbase, bringing more adoption, more innovation, and accelerating the use cases for many of our favorite digital assets. When these XRP ETFs, as well as altcoins in general, are approved at the back end of the year, that is going to give Wall Street access to these digital assets in a secure and regulated manner. That is something we have never seen before. And we're going to take you through the details of the actual fact sheet that was released from the White House. But I wanted to show you a confirmation from a Bank of America insider stating that an XRP ETF will be approved before the end of 2025.
In the US, 11 XRP ETF filings are pending with the SEC. And Bloomberg and analysts are now assigning a 95% probability that at least one will be approved. Well, during the night, I've been on the phone, Bank of America contacts again, and I'm saying 100% that these ETFs will be approved. 100%.
So we know for sure, according to these Bank of America insiders, there is a 100% chance of an XRP ETF being approved in the calendar year of 2025. One's in chat if you agree, two's in chat if you disagree. Also, smash that like button if you enjoyed this content. But let's start breaking down some of the important details here. Now, the importance of this report, it is ushering in the golden age for crypto and making America the crypto capital of the world. The Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets is releasing a report that provides a roadmap to making this promise become a reality. Now, positioning America as the leader in digital assets, the working group is determined that a fit-for-purpose market structure framework is essential to support growth and innovation in the digital asset industry. This just means giving clear rules and guidelines on what is a security, what is a commodity, how do people file their taxes correctly, and can prime brokerages start offering this to their clients? The answer is yes. And like I highlighted earlier, Charles Hoskinson is predicting after the Clarity Act is passed, this market will go from $4 trillion in value to north of $10 trillion in the next 18 months. Now, in this working group, they recommend that Congress build a massive bipartisan House of Representatives vote for the Clarity Act by enacting legislation that eliminates existing gaps in regulatory oversight by providing the CFTC authority to oversee spot markets and embraces DeFi technology, recognizing the potential of integrating such technology into mainstream finance. This would mean that the majority of the digital asset class is regulated as a commodity, and this would work in favor of all of our favorite assets. We also know that XRP is not a security. That is not an opinion. That is a matter of law. But here it continues. The SEC and CFTC use their existing authorities to immediately enable the trading of digital assets at the federal level by providing clarity to market participants on issues such as regulation, custody, trading, and record keeping. They would also allow innovation in financial products to reach consumers without bureaucratic delays through the use of tools like safe harbors and regulatory sandboxes. This would mean that companies would be allowed to come into the United States and test many of the products that they've built in a regulated manner, actually working with the SEC. And this would allow an integration between blockchain and the current banking sector. Now, I highlighted it earlier, JP Morgan is already working with Coinbase to onboard more existing customers into some of these blockchain products, but the Trump administration has already ended Operation Choke Point 2.0 once and for all, and by working to end regulatory efforts that deny banking services to the digital asset industry. A sound and predictable banking framework that embraces the promise of blockchain technology will allow depository institutions to meet consumer demand for core banking services. And this would obviously include digital assets. Now, the working group recommended that regulators take immediate action by doing the following: relaunching of crypto innovation efforts to clarify permissible bank activities. This would include tokenization, stablecoin issuance, and the use of blockchain. The White House is calling for banks to start leveraging blockchain, guys. That is happening in this crypto report, but I'll continue. Promoting transparency regarding a process for institutions to obtain banking charters or reserve bank master accounts. And we know earlier this year, Ripple has actually filed for a Federal Reserve master account that would not only allow for the Fed to custody the reserves for the RLUSD stablecoin, but it would also give them access to liquidity directly from the Fed. And the third and final bullet point, to ensure the Bank of Capital rules are aligned with actual risks associated with digital assets, not simply the fact that their presence is on a distributed ledger. That just means understanding that these blockchain technologies are bigger and more powerful than what they are being called today. Now, a couple of other indicators here. This will strengthen the role of the US dollar. It will combat illicit finance in the digital age and ensuring fairness and predictability in the digital asset taxation. Now, something important that our listeners should know, they do not address a Bitcoin reserve in these documents. And anybody who's been following this show for a long time, Donald Trump initially announced on Twitter they would be launching a strategic crypto reserve that includes XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I will make sure the US is the crypto capital of the world, and we are making America great again. That's the reminder our listeners need. Donald Trump initially made the announcement including XRP, Solana, and Cardano, and excluded both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, it's very important to remember, Bitcoin is not considered a United States digital asset, and neither is Ethereum. So if the United States were to launch a crypto strategic reserve, it would make the most sense to go out and accumulate United States-based digital assets like XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I do not believe this was a mistake by President Trump. I believe he showed us his cards in this initial statement. So now we can confirm the United States is going to be integrating crypto ETFs, United States stablecoins, and providing clarity as to which digital assets are commodities versus securities. And when these trillions of dollars that are sitting on the sidelines move into some of our favorite digital assets, we are going to see projects not only create new all-time highs, but possibly reaching price targets far higher than the digital asset community is predicting. And XRP takes center stage in this conversation, trading 8 years below all-time high for both Stellar and XRP. This is a project that is long overdue for a breakout. And starting on July 14th, the Federal Reserve made a shift to migrate into ISO compliant protocols. But we also have an existing settlement system that is in the process of modernizing. And right now, we are witnessing the largest banks on the planet shift into ISO compliant tokens, eventually benefiting the projects that we have just outlined.
Or the on-demand liquidity, which is Ripple's product that uses XRP as a bridge currency to settle cross-border payments instantly. Now, that's a lot of complicated words, but imagine banks or payment providers on-ramping dollars into real USD at one end, moving the value on the ledger in seconds, then off-ramping back to dollars on the other side, all without the delays and fees of traditional banking. And because real USD sits on the ISO 222 standard, the XRP ledger has sub 1 second finality, 1,500 transactions per second capacity, and very, very small fees, which means it could process billions and billions in daily volume at a tiny fraction of today's costs. So while these ETFs are making all the headlines, I think the behind the scenes rail upgrades are really what turns speculation into real adoption.
So with all these different narratives coinciding here in the summer of 2025, I think it is rational to understand we are on the precipice of something we have never seen before. United States banks migrating to blockchain tech, Wall Street integrating blockchain technologies, and most importantly, the United States advocating for the use of digital assets here. We are looking at a $3 XRP. I would love to hear, by the end of this bull run, what do you believe XRP's peak price projection would be? If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel, and we'll see you all in the next one.